Good evening. Today is Thursday, August 19th, 2021, and the time is 6:30 p.m. The meeting in the City of Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. At this time, please silence all of your electronic devices. If everybody would stand, we'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. A roll call. Judy, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Ken Dorich.
Present.
Jenny Hubbard.
Here.
Gerald Coley. Darren Burkhart.
Sure.
David Weigel.
Present.
Mark Bauer.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to approve our minutes of our July 15th meeting. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to read and review them. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are not any corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as presented. Old business. Mr. May, City Engineer, would you care to give us a few updates?
Thank you. Yes. Good evening. Veterans Way had been moving along quite nicely, and then about a week ago, it came to light that there is a Duke underground electrical facility that Duke had never reported to us previous until now. And now it's actually two Duke facilities that weren't reported that are in the way. And further, there's a Frontier telephone cable that we didn't know about. They were authorized to move it over a year ago, and it still hasn't moved. And the really sad part is the Milestone Road Crew has pulled off the project because they have worked themselves to a point that until they can get those three utility conflicts resolved, there's really not too much they can do. Duke has been, well, let's not pick on Duke. Duke and Frontier both have been less than responsive to this matter. There may be a meeting tomorrow with a Duke representative. One of the issues is a problem for a driveway, not the road itself. The other one may be an abandoned facility. The current term we like to use is retired in place. That means they quit using it, just left it behind, and then you never know for sure what those are. Hopefully that'll get resolved very shortly. I was trying to find out today, their contract, their intermediate completion date is the 15th of September. It had looked very promising that we would meet or exceed that until this came along. I don't know what to think about how quickly the utilities will respond to this situation and get it behind us. So,
Do we have any recourse?
Oh, looking at me, I mean, not really, not without getting into more issue than you really want to get into over a potential delay. I mean, we could review all the contract language and determine if there is something that would be attributable to them, that we may be able to get some.
and this is stated in state statute about utility
Yeah.
management.
Yeah, given the fact that it's a utility, the chances of you being able to successfully navigate those waters are pretty slim.
We're trying to reach out to some new contacts that we have and see if they can bring any more enthusiasm on Duke's part to address this issue in a more timely fashion.
Can I speak on that real quick? Sure. I did talk to Chip today, and then after I left this afternoon. So good evening, everybody. Two things on that. To Ron's point, so American Structure Point's a utility location service as well years ago. So once we found out about this, I called our contacts at American Structure Point and was like, this is ridiculous. You guys knew about this. Obviously, we have this date that we want to keep. So they we're more responsive to that as well. And then this afternoon, late this afternoon, I called our contact at Duke Energy, expressed frustration in the delay, and they told me that they are working to re-engineer the part of that. They do not have a timeline yet, but should have a timeline tomorrow, if not sooner. So I was gonna tell you that before the meeting. So they've been responsive in the sense that they're aware of it, and it has made it pretty high up the food chain at Duke already, so that's a good sign. Not,
Probably wouldn't do us much good. It probably wouldn't be too smart to drag them through the bad press.
probably not, I don't think we're to that point yet,
If
but
you say, what's the holdup, I know what my answer will be.
that would be fair.
One of the things that's very frustrating about this is utility coordination is not a casual thing. We have, through our consultant, worked on this for well over 3 years. And the way that process works, and then we, the city, work this on both sides, because where we have water and wastewater facilities, we have a duty under the administrative code to report where our stuff is and what our plan is for accommodating various kinds of road constructions. And there's a fairly decent chunk of administrative code written out about this whole process. One of the issues with the administrative code, there's no penalty for non-compliance. So it makes it awkward to encourage people to do what they're supposed to do. But I do know there was decent effort put into doing all the right things. It's somewhat of a self-reporting system where each utility is to say, we have facilities, here's where they are, here's what they are. Duke, on this case, reported that they had no facilities in the area.
So let's dig.
I would rather do that on a communication line, because sparks don't fly when you dig into a communication line.
That was said tongue in cheek.
And the
If
Duke,
you would like a key to the excavator, I'm sure we can get you one.
the Duke line is primary, so it's good stuff. It's not like 110 in your house. The Frontier thing, it's been known about forever, and they were authorized a notice to proceed. I'm told that Frontier didn't do much of anything themselves anymore. They contract everything. I'm told that they issued their contractor a notice to proceed well over a year ago, and nobody ever followed up. So,
We had the same issues with Frontier on Lincoln Street. It took forever to get them to resolve anything, so.
yeah, they're not one of the most aggressive utilities to resolve things. And they've gotten worse over the years as they've gotten smaller and smaller in terms of personnel.
Is the conflict just cable or is it structure?
It's copper,
Just
it's like a 55 pair bundle of copper.
But the structure, there are not junction structures that are in the way too.
I think it's just cable. And Frontier had talked about multiple different ways of dealing with this.
Is there a location in place where they can move it the other way?
You can drop it down. All it needs.
I'm just go deeper. But is there any other utilities that if you go deeper, you're gonna run into water or sewer?
No, and you could always bore it and get under it if you had to. They just need to be attentive to resolving, it's the biggest part. They have a plan, they have an approved relocation plan all the time. So, the good news is west of the old Tractor Supply property, they are like 95% complete. They have not put any surface pavement down, and the way that should work is at the very end of the project, you pave the entire surface length at once so it's uniform and continuous. Their fine grading is complete, the multi-use path is complete, I think the street lights are complete. They're ready for sod, and that's really about all they have to do in the western end. But they're held up from completing their subgrade treatment and just the work that they need there between First Financial and Burger King. So
So we have a little optimism from our mayor's report about his couple calls this afternoon.
I believe we will site, but we cannot expect them to sit out there and do nothing.
Go to
So,
the phones.
so,
But if we can get Duke resolved, we're still faced with, we still can't move forward because of Frontier. Is that correct? Unless I have the key to the excavator.
that may be correct. If Duke will tell us that the one is an abandoned power line, that probably resolves it, although our contractor would prefer for Duke to remove it. And then Frontier, I think David had the better solution, the key for the excavator.
We'll still find out how much time we got before we're up against the paving in the fall.
We can probably pave into the middle of November, so we're not tight on the paving window. But we did want to meet our contract completion date. So. That's good. It is. We've had a few hurdles on this project. We've gotten over every one, and then we get to where you can literally see the end. And we encounter others, so. Anything else on Veterans Way?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Indiana Department of Health preparation of the community-wide bicycle and pedestrian master plan. We had a public meeting opportunity Monday afternoon and evening. I don't know if any of you were able to attend. Reports from our consultant were that we're having pretty good participation. They're scheduling some other events to further try and. This is an input solicitation process right now. They're asking for the public's input on what we need to be doing with this. We continue to talk about the September 30 deadline for the funding. I don't think anybody needs to be confused about that. It does seem to be moving forward. So I know they've done a lot of inventory of existing facilities, and they have continued to work on input on what kind of features and facilities we need for this. And that is a key part of the planning process.
Is there another opportunity for the public?
There will be another public meeting that will come. There are opportunities for the public right now. I believe we're gonna be attending one of the farmers markets and sitting up there and inviting public input. Fall festival, when does fall festival occur? Is that too late for us?
I think it's toward the end of September.
Yeah, that's a little
It's
too
the
late.
It's the 18th, somewhere around in there.
Of September.
Yeah.
That's functionally too late if we're gonna be done by the end of September. There's an online, I should have brought some of the cards with me, apologize. There's an online survey you can take, or the public can take. And I think we've,
On the city website.
yep, so you can look on the city website and see how to get to that. We're encouraging as many people as possible to speak up on this topic. Any questions about that one?
No. Thank you.
The Veterans Way residential project, I think we've been working on crafting some language for an agreement with the possible developer. I haven't seen anything from that yet. Chris, is there anything you can add?
Yeah, so where we're at is I have conferred with multiple other council from other municipalities that have done similar type of projects to kind of gauge what went well for them, what didn't go well, what are the best structure to use and that sort of thing. And I've come to a general consensus. In fact, I had a very useful conversation this afternoon with the attorney for the Columbus RDC, who is in the process of doing a very similar project, not necessarily residential, but a commercial project of a very, very similar nature to what we are doing. There is a statutory process that we have to go through, and we've begun at least the portions of that because we're proceeding forward with the appraisal of the residential property, and that'll be the first step. And then we'll have to go through the statutory offer to bid purchase, but I'm also working on a memorandum of understanding with the contractor that we've dealt with and who we've been in negotiations with on doing that. And then I've also started working on what I'm currently calling a takedown agreement that will set forth all of the terms that we can do. So we're in the process. I hope that we will be in a position to be resolved, when we want to get there. So, does anybody have any questions about that? It's a really, really long lawyer way to say I'm working on it. It's on my radar.
I envision that when that draft of that document is published, the working group, which is Ken and Darren and Mark, and the mayor and I are involved in that, we'll get together, look that over, kind of sketch out a path forward to bring to you all when the time is right. Do you have any sense, Chris, about when the draft might be available?
Well, one of the things I was waiting on was the conversation that I had this afternoon and getting that scheduled so that I could make sure that my understanding of the way the project should be structured was correct. And so I would hope, tomorrow would be too much because I know I already have a bunch of meetings tomorrow, but I would hope early part of next week or latest end of next week. But we're talking weeks, not months.
Well, if we could have something along those lines, we could probably meet, the small group meet, and maybe have something better next month to report back.
Statutory, what's the time frame for those requirements?
Nothing overly stringent. You'll have to have at least one public meeting and an advertised scenario, but it is not. But it's not onerous. So I mean, I think if I can get it to you guys and you guys can meet prior to the next meeting, then you should be able to. We may be able to do all of the statutory requirements, at the next month or the following month, or if nothing else, maybe a special meeting, just briefly to do that and knock it out. But I would note, there's only public meetings, there's no need for a public hearing under that statutory scheme.
Any other questions?
And those public meeting requirements would be satisfied through the redevelopment commission, or
Correct.
does it need to go through a different city body?
Nope, they could go through redevelopment commissions.
How about appraisals for bidder and when?
There has been, so you all bought 7 acres? I don't remember the numbers, apologize for that. Of which the northern 27 is designated for residential development. The remaining acreage that's not in the 2 ponds is functionally in 4 parcels. The mayor and I sat down with a local appraiser and talked with him about appraising those individual parcels to some degree to be used as a marketing tool, so that when there is interest expressed in them, that you all have a better way of knowing what each individual piece might be worth. I actually thought we might have a firm proposal for that service by now, but we haven't gotten it back yet. I believe that a fee of $6,500 or less would produce 4 individual individual appraisal reports, one for each parcel, so they can be used individually, or if someone were interested in more than one piece, I guess they could be used together. So my purpose in having this on your agenda is to ask for your approval to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement to spend your money in an amount not to exceed $6,500 for appraisal services.
That would include all the parcels, including the residential properties, and you're gonna have to have that appraised before we can agree. I think that should cover us.
Should we push the fee up a little higher? When we talked with him, we only talked the 4.
Yeah.
7? Maybe you make that 7, because we weren't talking about reappraising the residential, but if that needs to be done, do we need more than one appraisal?
We can do 2 appraisals, but the one we did prior to purchase may be close enough in time for us to be able to use it. I have to look at the. I don't
Even
know
though
when we
it
did.
was the aggregate of the entire parcel when it was appraised
Yeah,
before.
I think it should still work if, depending on how
Does it
old.
matter if it should be the same appraiser?
I do not believe that statutorily it's required to be 2 separate, like 2 individual appraisers. But my guess would be if they have it listed as 2 appraisers, requiring 2 appraisers.
2 individual, 2 separate,
Yeah. But
so that may not work.
I hate when people sit back here. So we did have 2 separate appraisers when you bought it the first time. I think because we have to.
you did,
Right.
yeah.
So we have 2. The request now is to rehire one of them
Yeah.
to appraise them in small parcels because we've divided up the property. He believes that there is value in that because a smaller lot, a smaller commercial lot is worth more than 70 acres of everything.
Especially considering that some of the 70 acres is underwater, and this is all,
Dry, yes.
you know,
Something else would be if we are accepting, because the new appraisals really, like Ron said, more of a marketing tool, like this property is now worth X. But with the residential agreement, we're less concerned about what the property is truly worth. So probably if the 2 are close enough in time, we
Yes.
could just use the old appraisal.
Correct, I think that's true.
And if not,
Well, particularly if we're in a position where we can say, look, we have a new appraisal and we have a slightly older appraisal, here's what they are. I think that gives an accurate determination, and I think that would be sufficient.
and if we could go ahead and get, because we can figure this out too, if we can go ahead and get permission to get the residential reappraised if necessary, we could ask the potential buyer to fund another appraisal. They could get their own appraiser, that would work,
Yeah.
right?
so my $6,500 was speculation based on a discussion with the appraiser, but to appraise the 4 potential commercial sites, it did not include the residential when we were talking with him. So we may wanna, one of the things he expressed was that a certain amount of the work, like comparable values, is gonna be usable for all 4. So the first one's kind of like really expensive, and then thereafter, each one takes less work for him, so. But
And if it all just goes haywire, we'll just come back. Unless,
7,000?
I think that would,
Seven.
I think that'd give us enough, yeah.
probably would.
I'd entertain a motion to
So
do that, up to $7,000.
And for the mayor to sign on your behalf.
Yes. Darren's made a motion, Ken has seconded, for up to $7,000, and the mayor to sign, negotiate and sign on our behalf. Any question or discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Anything else, or are you finished reporting?
I'm sort of finished reporting, but I wanted to make a comment on the claims.
Okay.
In your claims is the first payment on the bond for purchasing the property that we were just talking about. So I wanted to make you aware of that. There was a disconnect somewhere. I think that should have been, it was invoiced back in May. And for whatever reason, it may have been something that was occurring when we were changing clerk treasurers, that it came to light here in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
It's in process, so it's for your consideration this evening.
Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item then is the approval of claims. On our summary sheet, we have two from Veterans Way, two claims from American Structure Point, one of $3,532.03, and the second one from American Structure Point of $50,261.48, and those add up to $53,793.51. And then we have three regular claims, one from Reedy Financial Group, $2,148.59, one from Stephen Legal Group, $225,000, and then as Mr. May mentioned, the bond payment of, yeah, I'm sorry, $225 for Stephen Legal Group, excuse
If
me.
you guys want to pay $225,000, I'm gonna let you.
$225, excuse me.
Huh?
Is that a lifetime retainer?
Yeah, that could be mine, and if Kohler became a lawyer, and if anybody else.
Excuse me, thank you. And then regarding what Mr. May just mentioned, the bond payment, $35,000 of principal and $21,311.92 of interest for $56,311.92. So those are our claims. Should we approve them all in one vote? I'll entertain a motion to pay our bills.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Second? Second, Darren. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
And it was implied that those are all coming out of 802.
Yes. Looks like we're at the end of our agenda. Our next meeting will be in 4 weeks, right here on September 16th at 6:30 p.m. Any other questions or discussion from any board members? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you. Don't run.